Hi everybody, this is Maria Clark at Sweet Willow Designs and welcome to my studio. Today we are going to be doing mandala dot painting and we'll be making a trinket dish. Here's a close-up of the dish and you can see we're going to get a really nice lacy look with our dot painting. This is what it would look like if you use different colored backgrounds and different colored paints. I'll show you all the paints that I'm going to use and the tools and techniques in this video, but feel free to try whatever you like to get what's pleasing to you. So here's the dish, and it's a terracotta dish that I just got at the craft store, and you can see it's got a really pretty lacy design. This is what the terracotta dishes look like when you get them, and sometimes there are little flaws because they are handmade. So I use some sandpaper and a damp paper towel to wipe off the sand, any of the sand dust. I'm using DecoArt chalky finish paint for my background, and a variety of DecoArt Americana paints in white, coral, blush, citron green, Tuscan red, and calypso blue. And then I also have my tools. So these are the Red Heart Crystallite crochet hooks, and I think you've probably seen some other dotters if you've been looking at any, watching any dotting videos. I like them. They're pretty and they have a nice flat edge. And then I also use these nail dotting tools, and I buy these in a set of 5. I'll have links for all these products down in the description. These are nice because they're two ends. They've got a ball stylus on each end, and I tend to use the biggest one first, but it's nice to have a lot of different sizes that you can try out. Okay, so I have done the background coat with the chalky paint on my terracotta pot and let that dry, and you might need to use 2 coats. I've traced the bottom of the dish on just a little note paper and cut around a circle. I did have to trim it up a little bit to get it to the right size, and then you just fold it into 1/8, snip off the centerpiece and the corners, and then you're able to have a nice template to mark your dish with. I am using a chalk pencil here, so you can see my marks. So for my center dot, I'm using the 8mm L crochet hook, and it's this blue color, and I'll just place my center dot there. You want to make sure that you have a nice consistency of paint that beads up on the end. And then I'm using my ball stylus, the largest one in my pack, and I will put a dot at each of the 8 points on my grid here. And you can see that I'm turning my dish because it's easier for me to get things lined up and also to keep my hand from dragging through the paint. Sometimes you'll notice me tap it more than one time, and I'm just dropping a little bit of extra paint down to get the size of dot that I'm looking for. I'll go in with my second row, and I'm still using the coral blush on each of these first 3 rows, and I will place a dot in between the previous 2 dots. And I'll do that all the way around, and that'll form the center of my pattern. Now I'm going to move on, and this will be row 4, and I'm actually using the 5mm H, and it's the red one, and I'm using the citron green, and I'm placing my dots in between the 2 dots in my 3rd row, and I'll just put those all the way around and get my dots there. And then I'm using the 5.5mm I crochet hook, and I'm placing the Tuscan red. One thing about these colors that I want to note for you is that it's nice to do a practice sheet. I use black cardstock, heavyweight cardstock, and I practice with my colors so I can see what they look like when they dry. This Tuscan red reads really, really red right now, but it will dry a kind of a brownish red, truly a Tuscan red. And so it's nice to be able to test those out. So I'm back to using the largest ball stylus, and I'm walking the dots. So I start with my white paint, and I line that up to the center, and then as I continue to move my dotting tool around, it reduces the amount of paint that's dropped onto the dish, and so the dots get smaller, and it gives you the illusion that these are kind of wrapping around, well, I guess it's really not an illusion, they are kind of wrapping around the primary dot, and they're getting smaller, and it's really a pretty look. So I'll do this, and you'll notice that I do all one side first, and I turn the dish as I go, and then as I go back around, I hit that very top dot again, and then just continue to walk it around. Now, you'll notice that on the first side, I did probably 5 or 6 dots. On this one, I'm only doing really 2. And you'll just have to kind of place your dots so that you can get them around the piece. You'll notice that I use one of my smaller ball styluses there to just drop a dot in to cover up and to make it look a little bit more even. Now I'm going back in with my largest nail dotting tool with the coral blush again, and I'm just dropping a dot in between the Tuscan red and the white bloom there. And then I'm moving on to my, this is now row 6, and I'm using this 6mm J brush, or J crochet hook, and I'm using Calypso blue, and I'm dropping a larger dot right above the last one that I placed. And we'll go all the way around with this. And you can see how the colors are really pretty, and it would be nice to change up the colors and use whatever variations that you like. Now I'm going to start walking the dots again, and I'm again using the largest ball stylus and the coral blush, and I'm going around that blue dot. Again, all on one side first. I just find that to be easier for me to be able to control how I'm placing the paint, and then to get a nice sort of even application. And I'll go all the way around walking those dots. And then I will turn my dish and start going the other direction. Again, placing paint in the very center dot. Now, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, because it will make that center dot a little bit bigger. You could go down a size in the ball stylus and just continue on that way, but I find this works just as well. One other tip that I want to give you when you're walking your dots is every now and again clean the tip of the ball stylus off, because as that paint starts to kind of get, build up on the end of that ball stylus, your dots can get a little bit messy. So I clean mine off periodically just on a wet damp paper towel, and that keeps my dots looking really nice and uniform. Now I'm going back around with the citron green, and that gives a really pretty contrast. Again, all on one side, and then I will turn my dish and start going the other way and filling in. You can see how that Tuscan red, as it starts to dry, isn't a true red. It's actually a little bit browner, more really a nice Tuscan. And I'm going in with the 4mm size G with Tuscan red in between. And I've got all of those dots placed. Now I'm going to let that dry, and you can see how it's looking so far. You could leave it just like this if you wanted to. I am going to add top dots, and I'm using my primary colors, and I'm just adding white to tone those down and to give a lighter shade. And now, this is not very scientific here, so as you're going to find and you want to do your top dots, you're just looking for the next size dotting tool that will fit in and give you the ring around the edge of the primary color. And you can use, you can make your top dots smaller, you can make them a little larger like I have, and get a nice look. And so I placed the lighter coral, which was just the coral blush and white, and now I've got the citron green and white. It's a lighter green, and I'm placing those dots. And I'll do the same with each one. So this is the Tuscan red with white, and I'll just continue on placing the top dots. And again, you don't have to put top dots on if you don't want to. You can leave it plain, or you can put as many layers as you like. I think it gives a lot of dimension and depth to add the top dots, so I tend to like that, but I don't use it all the time because there's some applications where it just looks beautiful without it. So this is the Calypso blue with white. I'm just going in and adding those top dots. You'll notice that the paint is forming a little button. That's a nice look, and that means that the paint is a good consistency. If your paint is a little bit thick, you do want to tone it down, thin it out with a little bit of water. Be careful though not to add too much. It's better to just go very lightly with the water until you get a nice consistency. And you're looking for that paint to sort of bead up on the bottom of your dotting tool, and that tells you that it's a nice consistency. You don't want it to run or drip. Now I'm going back on the Tuscan red with a lighter color. And I'm putting a little bit of accent. You can stand back from your piece when you're done and kind of look at it and see if you need to fill in anything. You want to see the black background though, so it contrasts, but I decided I'd like to add a little bit of white just to add a little bit of separation and contrast for the piece. So here's the finished piece, and you can see that I did go back and add one more row of top dots. I just used the original base color and placed one little dot in the center, and I think that really gives it a lot of depth and dimension, and it turned out really great. So that's it. Now you have a really beautiful trinket dish that you can give as a gift, or you can use as your own home decor. I did varnish these. I used a Varathane varnish, which is a brush-on varnish. You could use a spray acrylic varnish, or any, if you have a favorite type of varnish. I like a little bit lower sheen, so I use either a matte or a satin, and that gives it a really nice finished look and will protect your piece. So here we have the finished piece, and then you can see what it would look like if you changed out the colors and the background, and there's so many variations that you can use. This is really unlimited, and you can use lots of different color palettes. The other thing that's fun about this is you can do it on lots of different objects. So if you have a plate that you wanted to use, or some piece of glass, or an ornament, a picture frame, those types of things work wonderfully to do the mandala dot painting on, and you get a really nice pretty look. I want to thank you for joining me with this project. I've really taken a love of making these mandala dot paintings, and you'll be seeing more and more videos from me on this because it's something that I'm very enjoying, really enjoying. It's very relaxing. It can be very meditative. You can do it while you're watching, your favorite TV program, or you have some beautiful music on. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. I want to thank you for joining me in my studio. Take care.